This is Ed and Tony, and we will see you after this song in the Tampa Morgue.
What's up? This is Tony, and thanks for listening to the Tampa Morgue. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Ed Webb. What is up, Ed?
Mr. Anderson, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. Not much. Thursday, ready for the weekend. That was just Oblivion that we played. They are a Tampa band. I believe they spent some time in Los Angeles also, but I believe they started out in Tampa. That was Resist, Deny, Control off of their 2023 record, The Executioner. Before that, I think they only had like two demos, an 86 demo called Quest for Power and 88 Rebirth. And I think they put out a comp also, like an anthology comp this year on Cult Metal Classic Records out of Greece. But so yeah, that's Oblivion. And yeah, what's going on with you, Ed? Anything new going on in your neck of the woods?
Nope. Typical stuff. At least the weather's been decent. That's about it.
As you can see, I have winter clothes on here because it's already, and even here in this quote studio, it's already getting fucking chilly.
If they could see the video, I just shed a tear for you.
Exactly. We do have an announcement. We do have a guest coming on next week on Thursday. We have Dave Austin from Nasty Savage coming on the show, which is very cool. We've talked about him plenty of times on this show. He is definitely has a big part in the history of the Tampa scene. And we've, Dave's a Tampa guy. Well, Brandon, he was born in, But
Right.
and you've had a lot of dealings with Dave too, haven't you, Ed?
Oh yeah, I've known him for a long time. Yeah, he's a great dude, great musician. You know, I've said it a bunch. Him and Ben wrote such great songs. I mean, that Nasty Savage was truly an underrated band for a long time, man. Um, I think people now kind of get an idea of what they are, but man, growing up and hearing them, they were definitely a different breed of metal. That's for sure.
Yeah, and like we were talking about prior, a lot of the bands that we, the bigger bands in Tampa, they all grew up starting out listening to Nasty Savage. So I mean, it's they influenced them a long time ago. They all.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And I know, like, Chuck wore their shirts, like, from Death. I mean, so people knew who they were, and they're um, I don't know, they were definitely a staple, I believe, in the Tampa metal scene for since the beginning. I mean, I saw them on shows. I didn't really see them early on, but I always saw, like, there were times they played the Sunset Club and I did not see them there, but they were always on the flyers for those shows, and it was definitely. I wish I had seen them a little earlier, but yeah, they're killer. And Dave's
Yeah,
a
and
good.
Dave.
And again, Dave's just he's a I've he seems quiet. You know what I mean? I've seen him so many times over the years, and him just a very down to earth dude. So it's going to be cool to have him on.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in hearing his new band too. He has that DNA project with Jason McMasters, which
Yep.
we've talked about before, and I really look forward to hearing that. Maybe he'll give us some information on that. But Dave was definitely someone that we wanted to get on the show, and we kind of knew the last 2 weeks we had been talking to him about availability, and we, like usual, we usually don't say anything until we got it confirmed, but he will be on the show, so that's pretty exciting. Also, we have. I was also talking to, which we brought this film up last week or the last episode we did, because they have the Indiegogo going for the Witching Season 2, the Halloween anthology, which the first one came out in 2018. I think the last show I said 2020, which I was actually incorrect. 2020 was there was 5 different stories in that anthology, and I think the fourth story it was They Live Inside of Us, or They Live Inside Us, and he actually made a full length, a feature film out of it in 2020 from that anthology. But now he's recording part 2 of the Witching Season. I think they're at like 66% with 9 days left. But I did talk to Michael Baliff, who's actually the writer, director. He's a producer, a cinematographer, and he will come on the show. We're trying to work that out in November because they just started recording, I believe, this weekend, season 2. He told me I can say something about that. So there's definitely a recording, and if you want to see the full, and it's not like the Terrifier Ed when I went sent you on YouTube and it was all butchered up. There's actually you can see the whole Witching season 1 on YouTube. Like I said, it's 5 parts. But yeah, it's definitely cool. And Michael will be joining us in November once we get it all worked out. So I'm kind of excited about that. It's kind of cool to have some of these movie guys coming on.
Yeah, and it's good to get him. I mean, obviously he's in the middle of a crowdfunding kind of thing, but you know, you got to realize, if kind of like Terrifier, if you get in early, man, it's good to look back and realize that you were part of the help to make something killer come to life. You know what I mean? Um, I've seen bands do it. I think Obituary did it one time, and dude, I mean, they were able to they put every bit into
I
that
remember
record, and
that.
it was
Yeah.
killer, man. And
Was that
and the
Inked in
fan,
Blood? Was it for that
I
one?
believe it was. I think it was, and the cool thing was is the stuff they were offering the fans. Everybody got their stuff, and everybody was beyond stoked because I think they went above and beyond for the people who, you know, gave to the cause, and definitely, it's a great idea. I just don't like people who abuse that stuff. But if you're trying to, I
Yeah.
mean, these days, if you're trying to make a movie, unfortunately, I bet you there are probably some studios out there that wish they had snatched up Terrifier. You know,
Oh yeah.
now, Damien, he's just like, I don't need you.
Well, see,
Now he,
Damien too. He didn't want to be censored at all. That
right,
was a
and
big thing with him.
I'm pretty sure very few people would have let that movie fly.
Yeah,
Maybe, I don't know. Who knows, man? I mean, there's been some bloody stuff, but that was on a different level.
yeah, and that was one of the problems he was having. I don't think he wanted to let anybody really basically fuck with his film. And I know the Witching season one. I had read somewhere that the budget there was, there really was a very bare bones budget for what he did with that film. And if anybody's interested, you can go to Indiegogo has the campaign for Witching season two, and I'll tell you they have some really cool posters because I actually picked up one of the posters. I believe they're signed by Michael, but they're actually done by Slasher Dave from Acid Witch. So he did the posters for that, and they came out really sick. I got to say, I mean, it's perfect. It's definitely a Halloween vibe with those movies because I know with Baloff, he's really into the Halloween thing, and you can see it from the atmosphere of the movies. That's what I really thought he caught in the first Witching season was you could just see it. The whole settings. It just looks like it just has that vibe to it, which I thought like we were probably saying last time we talked about this. Like films like the Trick or Treat and stuff like that had that perfect look for Halloween. Just the decor, just everything. I thought.
Yeah, yeah. The whole essence of the movie was pretty spot on for Halloween.
Yeah, we have actually. So I was telling Ed, like I said, we really don't. We're not going to say names until we get them booked, but we're working on some people for next month that we pretty much know are going to come on, and I'm really excited about it. And today I was going through some stuff, and I was looking back on. I'm really big on like the TV horror hosts, which obviously we were talking about Dr. Paul Bearer from on WTOG from Tampa. He was the horror host there, and there was just a lot of great horror hosts, and there still is. Some are still around now. But there's just it's amazing if you actually get time, you go onto YouTube and just watch some of these a lot of the creature features and stuff like that. And I mean, I always love that stuff. And I even when I go back to Florida now, you have Svengoolie, the son of Svengoolie on Rich Kaz, who's on MeTV, which he's actually going on his 40th year now. And he took over for Jerry G. Bishop. Do you remember
Yeah,
Svengoolie? Yeah, he took up
yeah.
for Jerry. So what happened was is Rich Kaz actually would just write in to Jerry G. Bishop, and he would write him and give him ideas for the show. So eventually, Jerry G. Bishop would actually move to, I want to say San Diego. So he definitely moved away, and he actually gave Rich Kaz the permission to use the son of Svengoolie name. So the son of Svengoolie with Rick Kaz is actually still on. He's still on MeTV, and you could see him, anytime on Saturday nights. I think it's still Saturday nights, but he's been on forever. And I know when I'm there, I always try to catch that on the weekends and stuff. I think it's like 10 o'clock at night. But there was, you think back. So we had, you remember, Ed, I don't know if you remember Zachary, which was like the New York, Philly area. That was about, I think he passed away around 2016. Of course, Elvira, we all remember Elvira, and
Yep.
she's still around. And Elvira's great. We've met her at the cons, and she's very cool. And she's
Oh
still, I
yeah.
mean, Elvira still, she still looks this, hasn't
It's
changed.
crazy, right? It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like I saw a picture of her all stripped down, and I'm just like going, "Wow."
She's like
It's like
70 something years
I
old, and
know
she's
it's
still a
crazy,
beautiful
man.
woman. She's still a
Yes.
beautiful woman. Count
Yep.
Gore, which was like out of Washington, D.C., because my dad used to actually work for the Redskins. And when we were up in Washington for a little while, he was, which is actually his real name was like Dick Dizell. And he was 1973 to 87. I think he was in the Washington, D.C. area doing that show. But he's actually still around, and he's actually at conventions still and stuff. So you had that. You had Friday night with the Grave Master, which was actually a TV 18 studio in Orlando show. It only lasted for like 1 year, but it was pretty cool actually. Tim Kincaid was the guy who actually was the Grave Master, but that was just a few. I mean, you had the Bowman body with Bill Bowman, which was like 20 years out of Virginia. He actually like drove a hearse around as a like that. The studio actually talked him into doing this for publicity. Um, John Kassir, who obviously the Crypt Keeper, who we all grew up. A lot of us, Tales from the Crypt, which ran from like I think '89 to '96. There was also the films, if you remember, Tale from the Crypt Keeper,
Tales from the
um,
Crypt. Yep.
Demon Knight. That was another one that they did. Sammy Terry, who's still around, also. A lot of these guys are still going, and I've always been a big fan of the TV horror host. And during Halloween, I think they're great. I think they're they're all year round, but that's been going on Ed for a long time.
Yeah, and it's sad to see that they kind of took away that type of TV that we used to watch when we were younger because it gave you something to look forward to. Where now, I guess the problem is that there's 5,000 channels, so you don't have to. You're not has
Yeah,
stuck on one thing. Like we were with Saturday cartoons or whatever. Now you can go to Nick, you can go to Disney, you can go what I mean. There's so many channels that you can go to. And it was the same thing with MTV. Remember that was it, and then VH1 came out, and then all of a sudden they had another music channel, and it all just there was no more you know one place where you were able to go for one thing. Now look at movies. Look how many movie channels there are.
yeah. I don't,
So
and how much subscriptions they want you to sign up for and
oh
stuff. It's
yeah.
just
Oh
ridiculous.
man, dude, you don't even got to tell me. I watch those commercials where they're like, "We can help you get rid of all your unwanted subscriptions." I'm thinking to myself, "Bro, take them all." Because my
Yeah.
wife, our TV in the back, man. I mean, we were looking for something to watch the other day, and freaking Hulu, Netflix, Disney, HBO, or I think they call it Max now. Um, Amazon Prime, dude. There's Apple TV. It's like how many fucking things can you watch at one time? And then you look at the price of each one of them. So, yeah, I mean, it's
Cable bills have definitely changed. I know that when we have
nobody.
some,
I don't know many. I
Spectrum is
don't
the
know. Yeah, I don't know anybody really that has cable anymore because you can do streaming. Like everything could be streamed, like Sling and YouTube TV and all that stuff offers you the same stuff at a you don't have to pay for a cable box. That's the problem is they charge you all that $10 now for a cable box, and to me, for
well,
what?
I don't even know if they have public access really anymore, do they? I mean,
No,
I don't really think they have
no,
that.
no.
Here I don't think they do at all, but I don't even know if they have that back in the states anymore.
I no because they took away those channels and made them other shit.
Do you remember Metal Masters that used to run like I think that was like late '90s? I want to say
Yeah.
it was always a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
sabotage. Yeah, it was. I remember like was it every
It,
Saturday night or was it Friday night or some shit like that?
I don't remember what night it was, but yeah, it was definitely. And they had a version of that on public access after school, where that's where you heard all the thrash, the Testament, Overkill, um, Death Angel, all that stuff. That's
Yeah,
where
I
you heard
remember
it.
that, and I remember they had the '98 Rock, which was the whoever that's a Florida station. They were playing what the was it the Pit
Pit.
they had?
Yeah,
What
the
was that
pit. It was
Saturday
that was
nights,
midnight.
right?
That was at midnight on Saturday, or 11 or midnight, something like that. Yeah,
Remember
I mean,
that?
and that was hmm, I can't even remember his name that used to do that.
Neither can
Well
I. I
known
do
guy.
remember the show though. I can hear the voice though. Because I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
before I moved to Florida, there was a thing one called Metal Shop. I don't know if you remember Metal Shop at all. That
Hmm.
what that ran for a long time, and I believe that he's still who used to host the Metal Shop. I just can't think of the name right now. He was actually still doing shows on YouTube, maybe, and I believe so at least. But the Metal Masters, I remember, and they still have what's the radio station ad up there? Cacophony was on it. The public access
Oh,
station up
eighty-eight
there,
point five.
88.5, yeah,
88.5.
which was a cool station. I always liked going up there. But they had
What was it?
the
Trying to
Cacophony
remember that
show
dude's
with
name. That dude's
Luthax,
name is
Lothax,
yeah.
and
Oh yeah,
Pazuzu
you went
ran
in
that
there
show.
before, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Didn't you?
yeah.
Yeah. And I've done interviews in there before, and it was cool, man, because they did the nights that they were able to play, where they did metal and stuff. They played good stuff. They didn't always play like your popular, all over the world stuff. They played a lot of local stuff because
But they
that's
put
how
that shit
local
on
bands
so
got
late
here.
at night. I
Yeah,
mean, I
nobody. Yeah,
forget what time.
shit. I remember me and Pete went to
It
do
was
an
like two
interview for
o'clock in the
Contoria.
morning.
It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, dude. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Who does this shit?
Yeah, I remember that. I think that's the time they ran Cacophony, because when we used
Yep,
to do the bend, like they would come over to St. Pete all the time when we would do the shows in the Venom nightclub in St. Petersburg, and they were involved a lot back then, for that time period, and they were pretty much the I don't know when they ended. I don't know how much
it
how
wasn't. I
long they
know they
went.
were doing some. They were trying to get some. I guess back then, what you would call crowdfunding. To donations to keep
They're
it
always
keep it
doing
running.
donations. That not the
Yeah,
show, but that station was always.
but
I
I
think they
think
still
that
do
station
that.
got bought out. I
Ah,
think it
okay.
got bought out, and like so they turned it into like God, it might even be something Christian or something. Now I don't remember. It's something, or maybe talk radio, where they went specifically one type of radio. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I haven't been there in years. I have to say it's been a long
yeah,
time.
oh yeah,
And you found out something tonight, Ed, right? Too. You found out that Ed played with Diabolic, and you got some information on. We always when we talked about the Infinity Through Purification record that you guys did, we talked about how it came out in CD and never got pressed on vinyl. But tonight you learned that it is actually coming out in vinyl. Is that correct?
yeah. Hopefully I can say it, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Brian Malone, messaged me and said that I guess there's a label somewhere over in Europe that's putting it out on vinyl, and yeah, that was pretty cool, man. Because um, for a long time, I didn't even think I had the CD, but when I was going through some stuff a few weeks ago, I found it. So, um, but that's it. That's all I had, and they literally, from my understanding, never pressed it on vinyl, and um, and I believe the CDs were just, if you have it, you have it, and if you don't, you can't find it. Um, Again, I don't know for sure, but yeah, I guess it's true because I just looked, and apparently it's on it's on Amazon
Oh
for,
really?
yeah, it's on Amazon. Uh, Color vinyl. It looks orange.
What is
So
the
yeah,
going price for a Diabolic Infinity Through Purification vinyl on
it
Amazon?
looks like the going on Amazon is $27.98. So
That's
yeah,
average vinyl price. Man, usually you're going to get up to $40 no matter what with shipping, no matter what you get vinyl wise these days. And that's
yeah.
like
So it
cheap.
says here's the description. Never before on LPs, Vart Records are happy to release this cult Florida death metal album on limited vinyl, 500 copies, orange vinyl. So yeah, that's it's hard to believe that we did that in 2003, but yeah, killer, man. So it is
It's official.
100% legit. Yeah, yeah, it's cool. Yep. I mean, great. Yeah, yeah, I
There
get
you
to have one.
go. There you go.
Hey, I have the
And
Supreme Evil on vinyl too. So I don't know how many of those copies there ever were, but I remember when I got it, and you opened it up, and it was like, wow, it's pretty killer. But um, yeah, no, it's cool, man, and I'm excited because apparently I got one coming in the mail.
there you go.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, that's definitely some cool news. And we were talking earlier today about bands. We were just bullshitting in general about bands, the debut full lengths, right? Because we talk a lot about on this show. There's a lot of back in the '80s and '90s bands were doing a lot of demos and stuff like that. So we were talking about, it's not about what we think. I don't know how to say this, but it's not like the best ever debuts, but the ones that we like the most, that we grew up on, or we remember that came out and stuff, and there's so many. So that's the problem, is you're never going to remember. There's just, I mean, these are, debut albums from bands. There's just tons of that. The first one I think of, because you got to knock it off the table right away, Ed, is like Merciful Fate, Melissa. How many people do you talk to that just album itself is just, I mean, it's one of the perfect albums, I think. Um, the songs on it, the artwork. I remember they had a video for it, for Evil. Were you That came out on Roadrunner Records in '83? Were you a big Merciful Fate fan when that album came out?
Um, so yeah, the way that worked for me was I was into um, the Metallicas, the Slayers, at that point. and was like never really. I'd heard the name, but didn't know, you know, what that was. And a friend of mine, we knew him because he had super long hair, which was kind of back in 84 was kind of like, you know, your parents didn't let you grow your hair long, but he was the metal kid for sure. And we were just talking one day, and he's like, dude, you need to come. And he lived literally 2 blocks away. So we went over to his house, and he opened this thing up, and I was like, what in the fuck is all that? And he had stuff I had never seen before, and Melissa was one of them, and that was what he put on. And yeah, no, I was done after that because I had never heard anybody sing like that. The music was heavy, it was melodic, and yeah, King is definitely one of my favorites, man, for sure.
And the song
Always has
Melissa is
been.
just awesome.
Yes,
I mean,
yes, and it's funny that out of all the shit that I have in my collections here, my kid listens. I can think of 3 records my son like listens to religiously. Of course, one of them is "Rotting in the Swamp."
there you
You
go.
know, the
Good taste.
EP. Yeah, and he listens to the full length Generic Christ, obviously, but that's his thing. And Melissa, and go a step further, the fucking kid can sound like King Diamond. And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna spray paint your hair black and put you in makeup, bro, and we're gonna go do a goddamn fucking King Diamond cover band and play it all. Because I mean, I heard him in the bedroom and he fucking hit that note, and I'm like, what in the actual fuck? He's like, oh, I don't know, and yeah, it was killer, man. So yeah, no, that record was definitely probably the beginning of the end for me
Yeah, I
because
remember, I
that's
remember
what
when I, the
it's
artwork
one of
even,
those.
it's something, it's just something about it, and that artwork. I mean, that guy who Thomas Holm, he actually did work for King Diamond. He did for Denner and Sherman. So he did a bunch of stuff for those guys. But the Melissa cover, even, I actually love it. And speaking of, obviously King Diamond, you can also go to, I believe, the Fatal Portrait, which I think we both agree is another great record. Um, the lineup was great, which was actually not a whole. I don't believe that was a whole concept album. I think the first 4 tracks were kind of a story, and the rest of it was not. Because usually with King Diamond, you had the storylines. For me, I'll be honest, when I first really started listening to the King Diamond solo albums, was probably Conspiracy, which was '89, but also younger. So that's
Right.
then I went backwards a little bit.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
I had Fatal Portrait when it came out because there was a big sticker on it that said King Diamond, A Merciful Fate, the fucking thing we hate now.
oh yeah,
But
the tag.
that was the thing. If King Diamond of Merciful Fate's a new band, and I'm like, oh. And I remember when I heard it, I was like, this isn't Merciful Fate because it was different.
Yeah,
It was way different.
and I
But what
still,
I
the
like,
Candle, the first song on that record, the Candle, is still like
yes,
one of my favorite
it,
King Diamond songs. One of them, there's
yeah.
many, but
And the thing about King is he always evolves. You notice that even as he writes records, he evolves. He did it with Fate, and then with King Diamond, he it was a completely different thing. It wasn't Merciful Fate Part Two, and that was what was great about King is when he went back to Fate, they started writing records and again, and it wasn't King Diamond. They kept them separate. They were never,
uh,
they never intersected with each other to where like kind of like for instance, listening to Priest and I I fucking came across something the other day I completely forgot about, which was the Halford record
mm-hmm.
when he was just Halford, not Fight, Halford, and I was like, what the fuck? How did I forget about this? I mean, he comes out in that first song and makes Painkiller look stupid the way he's screaming, and I was like, this is insane, man. You know, this guy is like.
Halford's a beast. Yeah, he's one of those guys.
Well, they're
There's
the guys that were doing that kind of high pitched screaming. You know what I mean? And it's
I
just
don't think
yeah.
anybody screamed like Jim Gillette though. Was that his name? from Nitro. You remember Nitro?
Yeah, yeah, Jim.
Machine Gun
Yeah.
Eddie and shit. I think that guy, like, I'll never forget that Nitro. I forget what it was. It was like OMFG, or I forget the exact name. That might have been it actually. But that song Machine Gun Eddie. But that guy had a voice. But yeah, no, King. I mean, I love King Diamond. I love pretty much everything he does. I can't wait for the new record, which hopefully I don't know when it's going to come out. They've been saying for a couple of years now
He
it's going
said
to come
maybe
out.
this year. I just
Yeah,
saw
maybe
something
this
about it.
year. But
Yeah,
that
and isn't it weird that when you think about debut albums, and um I think about like what we were listening to, and I can remember uh talking about Fate and go another fucking evil band from Europe, Venom, you know. Um
Welcome to Hell.
Welcome to Hell, yeah, man. I mean, I remember when I picked that record up and I was just like, because for me, the first one I bought, probably because the time frame was black metal, but when I heard that one, the next time I went to the store, I started seeking more, and I saw this one and obviously a couple others. But I remember that was the next one I bought, and I was just like, and that one came out in '81. So how the fuck are you writing that stuff in
Isn't that
1980? I mean,
crazy?
just think about where we are today. 1981 was that 42 years ago?
Yeah. And I tell you that they had that album, which they had a video for that, if you remember, called "Witching Hour,"
Yep.
that they put out for that tune. That lineup just was just I don't even like I remember I think Mustaine was wearing a "Welcome to Hell" shirt, back in the day. Like I remember being like, I was really young. Yeah, 81. I mean, that really is pretty
It's
crazy.
crazy, right?
And
It's just
like In League
crazy.
with Satan, that tune, which I do love that tune. I tell you, Christian, when they did Works of Carnage, they did a cover of In League with Satan, and it was awesome. But yeah, that's Venom. Or we had someone that we had on the other day. Speaking of debuts, like The Accused,
Oh
Return of
yeah.
Martha Splatterhead. We just had Blaine on. That was '86. That album came out, and just what Buried Alive was on that. Martha Splatterhead, Wrong Side of the Grave, just a killer record.
And if you think about that type of music, what they were doing, that was almost unheard of because that was way twisted compared to like thrash or speed metal. It was, that was off the wall nutso.
Well, how about Acid Bath, right? You think of like just different.
Yeah. Yeah.
When the Kite String Pops, I mean, was that '94? Dax Riggs, who I actually have. Well, I remember Dax Riggs played. I think I saw him 3 times in the last maybe probably 10 years because he hasn't done I think anything in a while. I don't believe. But we used to go down to New Orleans and go see him play on Halloween. I forget the name of the club that we used to go see him at. Maybe like One Eye Jacks or something like that. But that guy's got a voice. You had Sammy in there from Goat Whore. The bass player Audie, who unfortunately got killed. Um, just That was a different record. Like Casey Eats Cockroaches, which is probably one of my favorite tunes off that record. Uh, Dope Fiend, The Mortician's Flame, Jezebel. I, I don't know. I thought that was an album I think came out on Rotten Records, and I mean, it's weird that and the cover art obviously was done from Gacy, which obviously that was with the paintings he was doing. But were you an Acid Bath fan at all?
I was, but I didn't really, I caught on to them a couple years later than when they came out. But yeah, yeah, no, they were definitely, they were a different band too. And I think that was the problem is a lot of bands when they first hit, people didn't get them. It wasn't until that time, because if you think about where a lot of the records we were listening to, except for maybe a couple, they were all from California, right? You can literally pull five off the top of your head. Debut albums from five bands, right? Bonded by Blood, Exodus,
Yeah.
The Ultraviolence, Death Angel, Hell Awaits by Slayer, which I think Slayer was probably before all of those fucking guys. Um,
But Slayer was Show No Mercy, right? That was their first full length, I
no,
believe.
Hell Awaits.
Hell Awaits.
Or maybe it was Show No Mercy.
I think it was Show No Mercy was their first. I'll have to double check that. Like I said, we
Yeah,
were.
you're right. I think you're right. You're right.
Am
Show
I?
No Mercy. Yep, yep, you are right. Um, Hello Aids was
Which
the first record
which
I
that was
bought.
'83.
But
Show No
yeah,
Mercy, right, on
yep,
Metal Blade.
yep.
Um, and
But
then
yeah, I mean, so you're and then Testament, you know, oh shit, it's not the
you know who
newer,
did
it's the
backups on Show No Mercy, which is probably surprised you. It was on what Evil Has No Boundaries. You know who does backups on that? Gene Hoglan, actually,
really
which is he does backups on that. I was reading, because Gene didn't get into. I want to say what Dark Angel. He got into Dark Angel probably '84. I think Darkness Descends. There was that. I don't know if that was 80. I'm not sure because I think the Dark Angel debut was We Have Arrived, which I
We Have
think
Arrived.
that was
Yes, that was the first.
85.
Yep, that
That
was
was
the first one.
85.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, because
And then yeah, of course Megadeth was,
Megadeth Killing is my
which
business. Yeah.
I got to be honest with you, man. There's always a thing of you know what ifs, but him leaving Metallica, you know, was probably the best thing that ever
Oh
happened to that
yeah,
guy. Because if
definitely.
you listen to Killing It, and again, this isn't a I don't hate Metallica. I grew up on Metallica. I was great up until Injustice for All, and after that it kind of was over. But if you take Kill 'Em All against Killing Is My Business, there's no fucking comparison, and I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I love Killing. I mean, I know some people.
yeah,
I
no,
love P Cells. I love P Cells too, but Killing is those are my two favorite. Those two albums right there. I know and I've mentioned this to you before that like people definitely Rust in Peace is definitely like musician wise, it's a great record. My favorite are the first two though. Um,
yes,
and you have what you have Autopsy, Severed Survival, and Peaceville,
yep,
which I'm really excited for their new record, which comes out on the 27th, which is actually tomorrow. I believe that it comes out
yes,
tomorrow.
yep. And the Testament was the Legacy. That was
Yep.
the first record, Over the Wall. That was the fucking video. They just kept playing
I can see
over
it when
and
you say it.
over
I
and
can see it in my
over.
head when you say
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
man, it was fucking over. And then another band that was so fucking influential to me, like playing bass and singing. And a lot of people are like, oh, I did it because of Gene Simmons. Believe it or not, that was not an influence for me to sing and play bass. It was other dudes, and this band in particular, Sacred Reich. Phil Rind, the way he fucking sang and played, um, yeah, there's a few. Another one, debut record, Dead Brain Cells, same thing. That guy played bass and sang and was fucking it was something different, man. These were records that just altered my life for sure.
Autopsy. Yeah, Chris playing drums and singing. Um,
Yeah, that was so crazy
and I
when I
think
first
Steve
heard that.
DiGiorgio played bass on
He
Severed
did.
Survival. Yeah, he
He
plays
did.
bass on that record. Um, and obviously, yeah, Chris, Eric, and Danny. The first cover was banned from that record. And I think that was '89. But that's that I mean Autopsy. Like I said, tomorrow comes their new record comes out, which definitely looking forward to checking out. Emulation's another band. Dawn of Possession from
Yep.
'91, another great debut. RC Records. That was, what that was 91. Wow, I just can't believe that.
Well,
And they're
go
still
further
killing.
back.
I got to say, Emulation still, another
Yeah,
band
man.
that.
They were definitely they had even they still do. They have a sound that when you hear the music, it's immolation.
Yeah,
Before you even hear Ross sing, it's immolation.
yeah, and Ross. There you go, as a bass player, vocals, as you were saying.
Yeah,
With
man.
Ross, I mean,
I've seen him a lot of times, man. I met him a few times. He's another nice guy. Um,
yeah, I've
Told you
always,
about that
I've
story.
never seen them bad.
Yeah, I told you that story in the bathroom that one time. That was a. I won't bring that up on here, but thank God for Ross because he was a nice guy.
Yeah, no, and I've never seen Emulation play a bad show. They've always just
No,
been awesome.
no,
Um, Possessed, of course, Seven Churches, which was 85.
it's
Um,
crazy, man. 85.
yeah,
I was.
we did 85 too. We talked about that once, and it was just it's
Yep.
crazy the releases that came out in '85.
Yeah, man. A year later, the first Cryptic Slaughter came out, another
Yeah,
band like the Accused, just way different than anything, um, anything out there. But there were bands that were starting to do that. Shit, what was it? Was it Dealing with It? DRI, right? That
yeah.
was the first record, and look how long ago that was.
Doesn't seem that long ago, but yeah. Then when you really go back and start looking at you just start thinking, be like, okay, maybe it was Dismember, like an ever flowing stream, which was I want to
90,
say 90 or
91.
91. Yeah,
Yep.
one of those. Yeah, that was Nuclear Blast. Which
They had
are,
so
of
much
course,
shit.
a lot of these, like Dan Seagrave did the art for that. We talked about Dan Seagrave before. His artwork I always enjoy. He's just he's done a lot of shit. Suffocation, Effigy of the Forgotten came out. I think that was 91 also, which was their debut. Um, what's your favorite Suffocation record? Or do you have one, or you just kind of?
Human Waste. I like the EP. That was there was something about that uh, not just the songs because there weren't. I think there was only 5 songs on that thing. But it was just. I remember when I got it, I was like, "Oh my goodness gracious, this is this is fucking heavy." Because you'd heard Cannibal, you know what I mean, and um, Suffocation was both from Buffalo back then. I mean, now Cannibal's in Florida, but they were both from Buffalo and or New York, and yeah, that was a fucking great record, man. But Effigy of the Forgotten is a is a fucking beast of a song, man. And
Yeah, that
and I was a big fan of Frank. When you saw him live, he was on another level, even back in the day. Um, it was definitely they you knew they were going to be a good band. Who knew they would be around this long like Cannibal though? You know what I mean? Still fucking killing it.
yeah, I like that dude.
And with a
Man,
new dude.
Terrence would be a cool guy to get on the show. I mean, that would be. I would like to get him on here one day.
Yeah, I've hung with Terrence a few times. Let me tell you, there's very few people I know who could keep up with Terrence. I'll just tell you that right now on it.
And a band that was just over here actually. They were just in Lithuania probably 3 weeks ago. Malevolent Creation, the Ten Commandments, which
Uh,
Hoffman, Phil. God, that was an art by Dan Seagrave again. That was what RC Records, but they were just actually over here. I think it was probably 3 weeks ago. They played in Vilnius. Premature Burial was on
that
that.
I remember when that song first kicked in, and he did that fucking scream, and the way he sang, man. I mean, he sang so fast, and I was like, wow. Yeah, Brett was very unique. He's another one of those guys that very difficult to uh, imitate. Let's just say that he had a very unique voice that he had.
The band,
Speaking of
another,
speaking of unique voices, Game Over,
yeah,
Nuclear
Nuclear
Assault. I
Assault,
mean,
which
you
was,
want to talk, which is funny because I always tell, like, I remember um, when Bryce was like, I don't, where does Tony get that voice? And I'm like, oh, you didn't know who his dad was? And I played him Nuclear Assault. He's
we're
like,
covering Stranded in Hell. Remember, we're doing that.
yeah,
We have that's one of the songs we're
yep,
covering. Yeah,
yeah. But he had
um,
that. I always said that he had like he was Sam Kinnison's lost baby. The way he the way he screamed. Because remember when Sam Kinnison would do that fucking scream?
and
That's
they're done now. They're
John
done. I think they,
Connolly.
yeah,
Yeah, man,
they're
I saw
done.
that, man. I
I
saw
think they
that
did. They do, if I remember correctly, didn't they? They ended, but then I think they did a couple. They did another tour,
show.
maybe.
They did a
Or was
couple
it a
shows,
show?
or festivals, and I think they ended it. Um, yeah, I mean, you know how that rolls, man. I think there's no money. A lot of those guys had to got jobs, all those years, and then you come back into it, and what? You may make some money. I mean, you would think people would want to see Nuclear Assault. You know what I mean? Because they had a catalog that was pretty extensive. It was good. They were.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't remember them putting
definitely
out
a
a bad
Nuclear
record.
Assault fan. No, I always enjoyed the vocals. I just liked the songs, the energy. They were always killer. And Game Over actually was the first thing I heard from them. So that was definitely I could picture the cover. I mean,
And they
Hang the
were
Pope was on that too, wasn't it? That was Hang the
yes, and they were. Wait a minute. They were from New York, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and think about bands that were from up there. Anthrax, Fistful of Metal, right? That was the first
Which is one of my.
Anthrax.
I love that record. I know people. It's kind of
That's
because
Turbin,
yeah,
right? Was that
Joey.
Neil
Yeah,
Turbin?
yeah, that was Neil Turbin on that one.
Yeah.
Because people, everyone loves. Of course, Joey's a great singer and stuff, but the Fistful of Metal is a great record. Did you like that
Yes.
album at all?
Yeah. It had that Anthrax, the beginning of the Anthrax heaviness, but with a different singer. And yeah, no, it was good. I mean, it's kind of like Killers. Either you like Paul Diano or you don't like Paul Diano.
Yeah, I love Paul Diano.
There's some people that say the first two records were the best. Other people say nope, it was Bruce Dickinson era. So it's all relative to your opinion.
I feel lucky because I like Paul and I like Bruce. I like it all. You know, I mean,
Yeah, no, it's two different staples in time, right? I
yeah,
mean, you know, speaking of killer singers, New York, Overkill,
yeah.
Feel the Fire. Remember when you that that record, man? I remember going, "What is this guy? Is he like on helium?" Because the way he
Blitz still
sang,
sounds great. I mean,
dude,
we talk about
dude,
Blitz almost every show. He's still.
I don't know. He does it, man. I really don't, man.
I know
Um,
Bobby wasn't too happy. Remember, he was telling us that he they didn't like his guitar sound. I think they fucked up one of his head or something like that. Something got screwed up. One of
yeah,
his
or a
tools
cabinet or something. Yeah, man.
cabinet
It
or
was,
something. Yeah, he was
and it
telling us
was
about
just like
that.
sounded like a wet fart, or I forget how he
Yeah, it
labeled.
said something like that. Yeah, I really a band that I love, and I a lot of us probably love them. But Christian, Black Forest Domain, which was just an awesome record. The brothers, Christian is just that's a beast band. Um, what was it? Messiah of the Double Cross, Blind Possession. Just I don't know. I just think that Christian that was 1995. Insane. I think that that's a band that just I've never seen them not destroy the stage. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
they're just fucking great.
and we I did a couple shows. Speaking of debut albums, the Supreme Evil by Diabolic. That record, I will tell you that I look back on that record and I was like, wow. I listened to the songs now and I was like, that was a good record. Um, just crazy times, right? I mean, you know, it's
Yeah, it's
but we played with Christian and I remember just thinking, wow, you know, this is
yeah, they're impressive.
who's
I mean, they
yeah, because I didn't know who they were. They were just out touring for their new record, and I saw these three dudes up there, and I was like, man, these guys are bringing the pain.
yeah, I think they're touring Europe now. Actually, I think they start touring maybe next week, or they may have started already. I'm not sure. Bathory, of course, the 1984 album, which uh, most people like Bath. That's just a sick record. I love it. God, that's what
Speak
was
English or
80.
die.
Speak English or die. Yeah,
And to think you look back on that, a lot of people like that record was a joke. No, it wasn't. It was fucking. It was fucking awesome, man.
I
I
liked
mean,
SOD, MOD. I liked it all. Like I thought it
yeah,
was
man.
just
Yeah,
SOD. You can go to like what was it? Larger than the devil. I mean, or bigger than
yeah. But you could go back and to that record and just think of all the songs, and every time you say the title, it makes you giggle because you know
yeah.
the context of the songs. You know what I mean?
They were always a trip. Angel Corpse, Hammer of the Gods, which we know Gene. It was like
Mm-hmm.
Gene, Pete, John Longstrike. You just actually John, who you just toured with,
Yep.
over yeah, played drums on that record. Which is that was what now, Angel Corpse started in Kansas, Missouri, right?
Yes. Yep.
That's what so they started because I think that album was recorded in Kansas.
Yep.
Um,
Which is, yeah, I don't. I think everybody kind of migrated here at some point. Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah, the cover was taken from the Triumph of Death from Peter Brogel the Elder, which was like some old artwork. But yeah, Angel Corpse, that was there's now he's doing now Gene's doing Perdition Temple with Ronnie, who
Right.
you played with, who's
Yep.
also going back to Malevolent Creation. Ronnie plays drums with them also.
Yep.
Um, and you played with Ronnie. What you did? How many years with Ronnie?
It was. It may have been just a little over a year. He played in Destined to Ruin with me and Damien. Yeah, it was. It's killer. I mean, he's a fucking, he's obviously amped up his game from back then, man. If I had him play those songs now, I don't even know if I could keep up. That fucking dude's a beast, man.
Yeah,
Seriously.
Ronnie's great. Really good guy too. And we were talking obviously earlier when the show started about we're gonna have Dave Austin coming on Thursday. So of course you have to go to the Nasty Savage debut in '85, which is I love the second album Indulgence, but how do you the first one's I mean just awesome also. Um, I'm sure we're definitely going to talk to Dave about that. And he was, so that was recorded at Morris Sound. We always, it's crazy if you look at all the Morris Sound albums, it really
Or the
is
band,
insane.
the bands that didn't, their debuts didn't start there, but because I know for a fact I saw this band recording an album at Morrisound, which is Sepultura. Morbid Visions was their first record, but I saw them doing the Arise record. This guy, Trader Ed, took me up there, and I was just like, oh, wow. Because there were so many fucking people, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I were recording a record, if I could have fucking like 30, 40 people walking around Morrisound, it was like a party. It was very, but they were there from Brazil. You know what I mean? So imagine that. You come from Brazil to record a record at the mighty Morrisound.
Yeah, everybody
That's the
knew him. I
only,
mean, yeah, everybody
that's
knew who
the,
Morris Sound was. Because I
oh
remember being
yeah.
in Jersey before I came to Florida, and you would read in these metal magazines about Morris Sound. It was like this place you heard about, and you always had a different vision of it. Because I went there when they did when I was with the Rivet Rag for the Frozen in Time listening party. I remember I think Death Metal Dave was there. Actually, it was a long time ago because that album's pretty old too now. They had the listening party. And so speaking of Morris Sound, Sabotage Sirens, of course, was recorded there. We talk a lot about Sabotage on this show. Um, but yeah, it's just funny whenever I look at records, you read the liner notes, and there was a period of time where it was just Morris Sound.
More sound, more sound, more
Ex
sound.
Order Slaughter in the Vatican, Morris Sound. I
Yep.
mean, I would
Um,
love to get Kyle on the show because I've heard that was really people were winding up in jail. I think and stuff. It was pretty crazy what their when they were recording there. You can actually go on YouTube, I believe, and see some of the recording for Slaughter in the Vatican at Morris Sound. Some footage that people took from those recordings. And like I said,
yeah,
Slaughter
no,
in the Vatican. And I have to actually say, we talked the other day, '87, and I totally forgot the Slaughter in the Vatican demo from '87. But the actual full length when they actually released it as a full length, that was at Morris Sound, and that to me, that record from I don't know that just hit a little different. Like when I first, it was a weird thing when I first heard Slaughter in the Vatican because if you remember, there was At Death's Door, the compilation, which was
yep,
either 90 or 91. I want to say 90. And that had like Sadis on it, Morgoth, Obituary, Deicide. That was when I was hearing a lot of like off of that comp. I was learning about a lot of bands, And
yeah,
I don't know if you remember that comp, right?
yeah,
Yeah, that
yes,
was
sir.
like was
There
that
was a
RC
lot of
Records
killer bands
or was
on
that
there.
Roadrunner? Was that
What's that?
RC or Roadrunner? That comp, I wonder if it was.
At Death Store.
I want to say
I'm
it
not
was
even.
Roadrunner, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But that, yeah, I mean, Slaughter in Nevada. I didn't mind the law either, but Slaughter in the Vatican to me was like the perfect X Order record. Chris Nail was awesome on it too. I actually had talked to Chris Nail a couple years ago. I would love, and as another guy, I would love to get on the show. And Chris, when we went to go see, so probably about when was that, Ed? When me and you didn't go, but me and the guys from Generic Christ went to New Orleans before I left to Europe,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and we
No,
went
I
to go
didn't.
see X Order, and
Yep.
Chris came out and played drums with them, which was awesome because he wasn't their drummer anymore, obviously,
Right.
but yeah, that was a crazy
And you're
trip.
right.
But
It was RC Records.
Was
You're
it? I
right.
thought so.
You were.
Yeah, there was
Yep.
some. You look at that lineup on there, and they could
Oh
just
yeah.
if you just learn so much. Like when you would listen to it when you were a kid, you're like, for me, I was so young. I was like, holy shit! It was just packed with. And I think what was it? Ed, you actually see was it Dead by Dawn that was on there from Deicide?
Yep. Yeah. And what's crazy is so I was. It's funny that looking at this and thinking the band I was about to say was Sadis. That's another band I
Yeah,
saw at at the Morrisound for their third record, but Illusions, that record, because to me, DiGiorgio was on a, like, there's bass players and then there's Steve DiGiorgio. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like him, I put two guys at the top of the mountain for death metal. And it's not a disrespectful thing. I'm sure there's a bunch of killer people. But for me growing up and seeing how, one of them played, because, well, actually, I toured with both of them. But Alex Webster and Steve DiGiorgio. Alex, because I became really good friends with Alex. We did jujitsu. He was doing it, he trained where I trained. Um, when we toured with Cannibal, my shit got stolen again. He offered me his stuff, but he would show me stuff. He's the reason I started doing three finger when I played, because I always played with a pick. And after the when that when I left Diabolic and started playing later, contorted and all that, I started playing with my fingers, and then I realized he showed me how to play proper. Um, you know, there is a thing to it, and he had such a fluent style. So yeah, him and DiGiorgio. So hearing that Sadist record, and that was another thing.
Yeah, because it
Fucking
was what
Chuck,
Darren
Chuck used,
Travis,
Darren. Yeah,
um,
they got a new record coming out next month.
John Allen. Yeah, that was
Yep.
what was that? 88. Illusions was 88 or
Yes.
87?
Yeah. Well,
88,
they had two. It's weird because they had two records that kind of came out in the same year. They had Illusions and then Chemical Exposure. So I always
which was a
thought
song
Chemical.
on the Illusions. Well, that was the last.
It
That was
was.
like one of the
It
tracks
was.
on. Yeah,
Yep. But yeah, there was that Death's Door, man. Every band on there. I mean, Pestilence.
Death was
The
on there.
first,
Yeah,
yeah, the first Pestilence record. I can never say the fucking name.
it's
Malika
like a
Farm. I can never say the fucking name. But that, listen, he he's another guy. Which, of course, later now he doesn't do it anymore. Um, but of course, I'm going to fucking draw a blank. We've talked to Martin Van Drunen. When he played, first of all, he played left-handed, and he played bass and sang. And I remember watching videos of them touring with Death, of him playing those first, Consuming Impulse and the first record, playing bass and singing. And I'm like, why did you stop? I think he played bass on the first Asphyx record too. But I think I saw a video where he's like, yeah, I just wasn't good. And I'm thinking, dude, I mean, those songs were, of course, Pestilence after he left, Testimony of the Ancients and on, got super technical. But I always thought those first two records are my favorite Pestilence records.
yeah. And
There was,
I tell you, Asphyx still crushes. I saw them like this year at the Kilcum Festival
yeah, man.
in Lithuania, and they were awesome. Definitely, and a band that we talked about. We played them probably I don't know maybe like a half maybe like episode 8 or 9, but a record that I do love, and I did pick up the Eat Metal Records repress of it. Not forget was it 2007? I forget what year it came out. Iron Cross, which we did play some of their stuff. I think that like that record it's amazing how killer that is. And I don't know. I mean, people know about it, but I don't know. That's what Pensacola, Florida band right there. But that with Demon's Disciple, I don't know. I think Iron Cross was. I don't know if you were a big fan of them, but I know me and Josh Jones were talking
Oh
about how
yeah, no,
killer
yeah.
they
I was.
were.
It's just, remember, you couldn't find that record to save your life.
Yeah, it was like we were talking. They repressed it. Like I said, I have the repress. I don't have the original. Now, Josh actually got a copy of the original because at one point they were saying they put out 100, and then the Rex, who actually passed away in 2021, he had said they put out 500 on it in some interview. So I guess but they've actually as we see a lot of, they have two members that have passed away now because Mike Skelton passed away, and then Rex. So, but Iron Cross definitely, if anybody gets a chance definitely check it out. It's hard. You can find it on, you can find it on eBay and stuff, copies of it. I don't even think that you can't even listen to it on Spot. It's not on Spotify or
No,
anything,
no, because I looked
you
that
know.
day when we were talking to Josh.
Yeah, but I know a Greek label, Eat Metal Records, repressed it because I did get a copy of it. But yeah, it's the original it's fucking shitloads. I mean, that's a expensive buy now.
It's amazing, man. Just when you go over it, because sometimes you don't realize how many bands that we grew up are from Tampa. You know what I mean? Or the
Oh yeah,
surrounding areas, like Nasty Set, but Obituary, man,
yeah. Slowly we rot, of
slowly we
course. I
rot,
mean, that's
man. I
yeah.
mean, dude, again, John Tardy. First of all, one of the nicest fucking people. I mean, coolest, quietest dudes. Unless you get a couple beers in him, he's different. But I mean, most professional musician. I think. I mean, that dude's in bed early every fucking night, which is crazy. I mean, how many people do you know could be that conditioned to take care of themselves on a tour? Because most people they fucking party till they drop, and then their voice is
And good
trashed.
people. Like look at Donald helping all the cats. He's
The
always
whole
been doing the
no, the
metal
whole band,
militia.
dude.
Yeah,
Kenny, Terry, Donald. I mean, Trevor.
I
Um,
loved when we played the Cuban when we played that metal festival with them at the Cuban Club, and I thought it was so cool that Trevor had his barbecue truck pulled up out there selling pulled pork sandwiches.
yep.
After they got done playing, Oliva singing with them. I mean, it
It,
was kind of surreal in a way.
again. These guys, they're you know, to think how they're still fucking. I mean, if they played Tampa today, even though they played a few months ago, it would be
Still
fucking sold
packed the
out.
place.
It'd be
Yeah.
sold out, man, because they're
Obituary,
fucking.
Cannibal, you're going to see packed houses when you go see those bands all the time,
Yep,
twenty four
yep, and
seven.
I promise you today, obviously, who would have thought when Scream Bloody Gore came out how big Death would have been? Because
Yeah.
that record was very raw. It was just him and Chris. I think I'm pretty sure it was
Yes.
just him and Chris that did that record. So Chuck played all the instruments. Chris, did the drums, and then look at the end. The music. Look at the. I mean, the motherfucker played with Andy LaRock. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I mean, think about the people. Ralph Santola, all the people. This guy, the dudes from Cynic, Sean and
Yeah, it really
I mean,
is.
it's like you look at uh, the musicians that Chuck had the privilege to play with, and vice versa. I mean, who would have known that Death would have exploded off of Scream Bloody Gore? And now look, Left to Die are out there. Um, the dudes from Left to Die are out there fucking playing those two records pretty
Yeah, and
much in
they're
full.
going to Europe too. What November? Is it Europe?
Yep,
Or they going to
yep.
the States? They're doing Europe
No,
tour.
no, no. They're going to the playing the West Coast.
Oh, okay, so the West Coast. A
Yep,
band that I got, like this record, I remember from when I was working for the magazine was, which are a Florida band also, was Black Witchery, um, Desecration of the Holy Kingdom, which was, I want to say it was probably 2001, 2002 maybe. But they, that was I remember we got that when I was listening to doing the magazine. I think that was their debut, if I remember correctly. Um, who else you had? Entombed, which I've seen Entombed a few times. They put out Left Hand Path, obviously. That was their first record. It was
yep.
1990. Last time I saw them, do you remember? And I actually went with, I think it was Jill Butler, Terry's wife, I met up with there for it was King Diamond and Entombed at the Twilight, which was like this in
Small club.
Ybor. It was a
Yep.
small club. Yeah, it was like right off of. It was actually very close to where the Ritz is or the Masquerade in Tampa. But I saw that was a very small place for King Diamond, and yeah, Entombed played that show, which was totally. It was different. I have to admit, it was totally different than the Left Hand Path days. Just
Was that
totally.
Wolverine Blues? Was that Wolverine Blues time?
I think it was after that. Still, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was definitely after that. They had the
Yeah.
video for Left Hand Path. But that record, another Seagrave cover,
Yeah,
we always
man.
go back to the cover. Seagrave had so much going on, but yeah, I mean that was a classic.
It's
What
weird because we are so. I mean, we haven't even talked about fucking '80s bands yet on this show. Like real, like the
Yeah, I
shit we.
kind of did that on purpose this episode. I was kind
No,
of
no, no.
keeping
I'm
it
just
like
saying it's like
just
weird
kind
that
of. I
because
was like,
me and
ah,
you, I mean, we did the Skid Rows and all the fucking hair shit, and we loved it. I'm not afraid to tell anybody that fucking shit was a big part of my life too. But for us, here for the most part, we bounce between death metal, like Entombed, and kind of thrashy, thrash. I mean, you're talking about Entombed, and I'll pull up. Whiplash,
Yeah,
fucking Power and Pain. I mean, think about that record. Walk the Plank. You know
Jersey
what I mean?
band. Everybody's named
What?
Tony in the band. All three of them were named Tony. I mean, could you imagine how confusing those conversations got?
Oh my God. But those bands, Whiplash, think about how his voice
Passaic, New
was.
Jersey.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
man. You think
touring
about
now. They're touring as we speak.
Listen, when we played the cruise, I think I said this before, but when we played our first cruise, Massacre played the 70,000 tons. We played at 3 o'clock in the morning, which I thought was going to absolutely fucking blow. I couldn't have been further from the truth.
I
Why?
remember that. I was
Because
there. Yeah.
everybody wasn't drunk yet. That was the first night, so people were just starting their partying. Well, afterwards, it was probably 5 o'clock in the morning when I got to sleep, and I set my alarm for 9:30 so I could get up and go onto the fucking the deck because Whiplash was playing. They were the first band of the day on the deck at 10 in the morning, and dude, I was like, man, I'm going to get no sleep, but fuck it, man, I had to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we also had 3 days or two more days before we played on the way back, so I was done. You know what I mean? I could have fucking slept all day. It didn't matter. But yeah, seeing Whiplash was definitely cool. And talking about Bobby, I saw Bobby in this band, which this we've talked about this. I've talked about this show where when I saw Atheist, which was what their Piece of Time was their first record,
Yep.
right? But I saw this band
Which,
play after Atheist, which is Violence, the Eternal Nightmare,
yeah.
and Sean's vocals. I mean, dude, this is another guy. This guy sounds nothing like anybody. The way he sang, I was like, man, what kind of voice is that?
There was a
You know what I
lot of
mean?
that back then. Those distinctive singers, though. You had those guys. I mean, a
But they
band
were
like
all grown up that, because you had Mark singing super crazy high and Death Angel. And these guys are all from, kind of the same place, right? Then you had Chuck Billy that sang almost a low register, but still could hit weird highs back then.
well, look at
And then you
Razor. I think Razor was that guy. From the talk speak of debut albums, Executioner song in '85 was. I don't know if you remember that Razor album, but that guy
yeah,
could just Sheepdog could just hit some crazy vocals.
well, Um, and I think it must have been a thing, because obviously these bands were all playing with each other. Slayer was playing with Testament, was playing, because they were all from California. But think about Paul Bailoff. I mean, Exodus, that first Bonded by Blood. I
Yeah,
mean, dude, um, another record, and I love Steve. I love Steve, but Paul was a different breed of singer.
and we always speak about. I mean, they were definitely one of our first interviews we had. But Hell Witch, you had the 1990, the Miscreancy album they put out, and I'm always complimenting Pat's vocals. I see they're doing a bunch of shit now. They were just in Tampa, but that was
Yeah,
again recorded at Morris Sound. We talked to them about that album,
yeah. I seen they're playing
Wild Dog Records.
is it the beginning of the year? I think I just saw they're playing a
They're
show
doing
in
Mass
Miami.
Destruction too, right? They're doing the Mass Destruction Festival, I believe,
Maybe
coming up.
I didn't
I
see that,
believe
but I saw
so.
that they were doing a show down in Miami. It's either at
Oh,
the
with
end of the year.
Volcano.
Yes, yes,
Yes, yes. I
a
think
good,
Pat
good
was
show.
actually we were talking about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so that's cool.
and Razor they actually put out a record. I think it was last year. Cycle of Contempt, which was like their first album in like 25 years. But it's not, obviously he's not singing with them anymore. But from the Sheepdog from the '85 album. But
Here's
Razor's
a
a
band.
killer band.
Here's a band I saw that I hadn't seen in a long time, and when I heard they came back, I saw them. They played right after Suffocation the night we played Maryland Death Fest, and it was Demolition Hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that first record, 44 caliber brain surgery. I'll never forget, like going, oh my god! And those songs, Vinny, the drummer, Rick told me a shit. Vinny Days, Rick told me a bunch of stories about because they toured a lot with Death and maybe Massacre. I can't remember, but That dude was a tattoo artist. So yeah, they were definitely a different sounding band, and they were coming out at the same time as Entombed, and you know, and you know, I don't know, man. These records, because they keep popping in my fucking head, which is what happens with us, right? Because we keep thinking of, but Realm of Chaos, Bolt Thrower.
Yeah,
That
I
record
know
just,
you're a
I'm a
big
huge
Bolt Thrower
dude.
guy.
I am a
Yeah,
big dude. I don't know why that band, because they were, and I say this with ultimate respect. They're like Obituary. When I say simple and to the fucking point, but write shit that is just unmatched to 90% of the shit that's out. I mean, you could play this tech metal till you're fucking dead, but if it doesn't groove, what do you do with it, right? You can't get fucking, you play that math metal that you see fucking everybody playing, right? And what do you see in the audience? People fucking standing there because they don't know what to do.
it's like
They're like,
Alice Cooper said. Where's the song?
right.
I always
But
when he said that,
when
that's
you
perfect.
hear Obituary or Bolt Thrower, the shit just that fucking that straightforward double bass and that fucking riff and then the vocals, and it's just, yeah,
I
Realm
was
of
hanging
Chaos
out with
was
this
great.
Scottish guy at the bar here, probably I don't know, maybe it was a couple weeks ago. We're talking about music. One of my buddies, and he was saying it's funny because he goes when he obituary, he calls it what was it, barbecue death metal, and it makes when he says that I understand what he's saying, like it's like American barbecue death metal, as well, and I get it. And a band that I know you've heard, I know you're not probably a big fan of, but I had you listen to them. A band I really think is fucking great, but they're not. I think they're not together anymore. B Style Mockery. I know I had you check
Oh
out the
yeah,
Gospel of Insane, which I think
yeah,
Gospel of Insane, the 2006 record, is definitely their best, but their debut is also killer. Christ Crushing Hammer Chainsaw from 2002 on Metal Blood Music. But I've always dug that band. They're from Sweden. Like I said, the Gospel of Insane, of the Insane, that is my favorite record from them from 2006. But the debut's killer. They're definitely like a fucking nasty band, but they're some killer music. I mean, but they do
I
get they
agree.
yeah
Yeah, they
they're
weren't. I didn't have. That was something I never bought. When you hit me to it, I was like, oh, this is different. There's a lot of
yeah
different bands that I've heard
it's
that I've
nasty
gone.
though. It's mean. It's just fucking mean and nasty, but it's
Oh
great.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It,
But there's but there's always been bands where I found them later on, and I was like, oh. And then you always
well,
wonder, would I have listened to this back in the day? Because sometimes if it's not your cup of tea, you don't even give it a chance. And that was
yeah.
the problem with a lot of bands. Why a lot of bands, because I know a lot of people that
Well,
didn't
me and
like.
you are like we're pretty much agree on a lot of things musically, but we also like I like a lot more of the Black Death thrashy, like the Blackie kind of stuff, like the and you're more like you like more of the old school. I like the old school too, but we definitely like I like more of that kind of I don't know what you call it, like that I don't know like the I guess well I
Well,
like
see,
black metal. You're not a big black metal guy unless it's like
no, not
I like
really.
that I do like that. Um, and an album that we definitely have to acknowledge because we all know it's probably one of my favorite records ever was the first Deicide, 1990. Scott Burns, More is Sound
Agree.
Again. Not a bad song on the record.
Mm-mm.
The
No, I
Day of
agree.
Darkness,
That's
Lunatic,
where. So that
fucking
record is
amazing.
why this fucking idiot right here started singing death metal, because I can remember my dad was not home working. He owned a golf shop, and I would get home from work, and the first thing I would do is either put these songs on and play them front to back on guitar or bass, depending on the band, or I would fucking scream my head off. And that record, oh my god! I mean, now when I listen to the lyrics, I go, oh shit, fuck,
I
I'm
love
funny.
that record. I never. It's
But
funny
yeah,
that I
no, it was,
can fucking remember those songs. Like even when you haven't heard it in a while, it's like just such a
dude,
fucking
because
great record.
we lived it, man. The problem with me is I worked with some guys, and they were they were kind of into more thrash. They were into the like, I hate to say Pantera because I don't consider those first fucking glam records really a fucking record. I consider Pantera's first record "Cowboys from Hell" because that
See,
was
and I didn't even
Pantera.
hate. I forget what it was. I didn't hate the first couple records. I
No,
actually,
no, but
I mean, they
that's
looked
that was
ridiculous, but I didn't hate the power metal. I think was one of them.
yes, yep.
Yeah, I
It
didn't
just
hate
it
those.
wasn't Pantera because if you think about Pantera as to what they are, Cowboys from Hell is what but of course it's not their debut record, so you can't really say it.
Yeah,
But I remember when I went in when I worked at this bike shop at like fucking 16 years old, and I went in and this guy was fucking long hair, beard, just looking fucking mugging me, mean mugging me, like who the fuck is this? Looking at me like who's this fuck stick, not realizing that me and him actually wound up being great friends, you know, till now. And he was in his 40s, so I'm 16. But I heard him playing something over, and I go, "Dude, what are you playing? I've heard that before." And he goes, "What do you know about this stuff?" And it was Flotsam and Jetsam, Doomsday for the Deceiver. And I was
I
like,
haven't thought of that in a long
uh,
time.
the fact that that guy right there now plays in Metallica, that's what I know about that shit.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, those were those records, that I go back. Alice, he was also playing Annihilator, Alice in Hell,
Alice
and
in Hell.
I was like, Jesus Christ, man! He goes, I like the singers that sing. You know what I mean? He wasn't into like when I played him
Some people
Deicide. He's
can't
like,
deal with the aggressive vocals. I remember like a lot of my buddies who weren't into it were like, I just can't deal with that.
yeah,
You
because I
know,
remember I bought this record, um, and I let him hear it, and I'm trying to think of what the fuck it's called now, because one of them was Anger Watt. You remember that band?
hmm
When
definitely.
Obscenity Becomes the Norm, I think was the first record they put out, and oh my god, this was a band from Texas, and I'll remember the name of them, but they were just a weird fucking band. But he took a fucking, I think the song on the record was called God, Guns, and Guts, and it was a fucking weird band, man.
A band
But
that you're actually pre-Ed Web, Monstrosity, Imperial Doom.
yep, yep,
Which
plenty of
was
bands pre Ed Webb.
Mark Van Erp, who you're still rooming with or hanging
Yeah,
with in that band, and Lee, Corpse Grinder on Vokes. So they did a video for that one too. You had Asheron, Rights of the Black Mass '92, which was
it's
their
crazy.
debut. Yeah, it's that another again Morris sound. It's always Morris sound, but yeah,
Yep,
one album that I love, and I still love the cover. And actually, you can't see, but I have the cover hanging above my head on the wall. Deceased, Luck of the Corpse from
yep,
'91. King Fowley, of course. But that the Cemetery's Full was on that. Feasting on Skulls. But the cover art was actually from the 1963 movie Black Sabbath. But just a kill, I don't know, something about that cover. And a band that I still think is fucking awesome is Exciter. Heavy Metal Maniac in '83 came out on Shrapnel Records, and
that's
they still
crazy
are
sound.
killer. Yeah, you know Dan playing drums and singing. I mean, just like I said, Exciter still sounds great. And I know somebody just saw them recently and was telling me that they were actually like, I think there was, I forget how many bands were playing, but they out of all the bands, they blew them away. So Exciter, I think they're from Ottawa, Canada. I know they're a Canadian band. I believe they're out of Ottawa though.
Creator,
Yeah. Yeah.
Endless
Yeah.
Pain.
I
That was
thought
one
of
of the
Creator
first.
earlier today, actually. I didn't. Yeah,
That
you're
that
right.
was that was one of the first shows. You asked me that before, but the first show, I mean, real show, like at a real venue, because they played Janice Landing. That was I was scared because my buddy was like, "Man, there's gonna be skinheads here," because it was DRI on the Four of a Kind tour, but that was Creator's first tour, and yeah, that was another band, and Destruction, same thing.
Or
You
Sodom,
know,
Obsessed
Sodom.
by
Oh
Cruelty.
my God!
Yeah.
And what's crazy, man,
Metal
because
Blade
in the Sign of
Records.
Evil was this was a EP, right?
And they put
Yes.
that. I think they did a reissue where that was actually where they. I think they were all everything was put on there. I don't know exactly how it went, but Obsessed by Evil. That was what was that? 1986 Metal Blade Records.
I mean,
Jesus.
think about that, man. Those band and now Sodom's still out there kicking ass. still
I,
crushing. I
I
mean,
remember someone told me that Sodom, well, that album, they recorded it twice, and by mistake, the label put out both versions of it.
imagine
Yeah,
that shit.
I'm not sure. I believe I did read that somewhere. That
Imagine
they,
that shit. You know,
yeah,
you,
but it
you
was a
you
label
you try
mistake.
your ass not to fucking have that happen, and what happens? Boom.
And a band that treated us, we've always gotten along with when we got to play with them. Goat Whore, The Eclipse of Ages into Black. I always like Sammy. I think Ben's awesome. I always like Soylent Green. You know, but that came out. Was it Rotten Records, which was they were also doing like we said the Acid Bath. They used to do another band too. We booked a band. I'm trying to remember Vampire Moose. Do you remember that band?
The
They're,
name
they're,
sounds familiar, but I am not. You know, it's not
I
something I
believe
would.
we booked them at the club and we let them. You know, like I told you before, we would let bands stay there overnight if they had to travel and it was just a shitty situation. Because one of us would always stay at the club at night usually. You know, we'd sleep in the back room. So I believe that band stayed at the venue with us when they played our that club.
Vampire Moose.
Yeah, they were Rotten Records. I don't remember what they sounded like really, to be honest. It was a long time ago. But a band I do really dig, and I just saw them with Destroyer 666, and I forget who else was on the bill. Unleashed, Where No
Yes.
Life Dwells, 91. Johnny, he was in what, Nihilist, which I guess became Entombed eventually. Uh, but I
A lot of
mean,
those guys. Morgoth. What was it?
yeah.
Burnt Offerings. Was that the first record?
God,
And you know what's crazy is Martin. What? No. What was his name? Something Hughes. The singer, Mark. I think his name was
from
Mark
Morgoth.
from Morgoth. Yeah, but he used to play bass and sing, and I would see him like on videos and go, see all the real fucking killer bands, Sodom, all the killer bands. The bass players are singing. So
Are Morgoth
Deicide,
still around? I actually don't know if Morgoth does anything anymore. I know it's
they
been a
are,
long
but he's
time.
not in the band anymore. They got a like new dude. But we forgot Morbid Angel, dude. One of the
Yeah,
big, Altars of
no,
Magnet,
Authors of Madness. You can't.
and the Key from Nocturnus. More Florida shit,
I
dude.
I dig the key. Like I always said, like because Thresholds, Mike didn't sing on it. I liked Mike's vocals with Morbid,
Agreed. I guess
Nocturnus. You know,
I guess Abominations was released later, right? So technically, Altars was the first record.
his first full length maybe is listed as.
Yeah,
I'm not. Yeah, I'd have to double check that, but I believe that if you looked at the listing, it might be listed as that. But yeah, I mean, it's just
there's so many. The band I was thinking of earlier was called Agony Column. They were from Texas.
I remember Agony Column.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man,
I wouldn't have
they were
remembered that
different.
though. Now you
Yeah,
said it,
no,
I'm
but I just remember I bought it because of the cover, and I remember when I played it, I kept playing it. That guy, his name was Leon. He was like, "Listen, Eddie, you're going to give me that record. You're going to give it to me because I know you don't like it, and I'm just going to take that and I'm going to listen." And he wore the fuck out of it. I gave it to him because I was like, man, I went and bought another copy, but he'd be pulling up in this fucking van that he had built speakers in, and I'd hear God, guns, and God. Dun, dun, dun. It was just like because they were from Texas, so they had that Pantera ish thing going on, like a lot of those bands did back then. And I was like, man, but it's just crazy, man, when you think about all these records and we haven't even scratched the surface. I'm sure there's a
No,
thousand
they gotta.
others.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, just think about it. Like it's one of those endless journeys. You know, when we started talking about it this morning, it was like, oh well, we'll bullshit about it on the show. You know, because we were just like, let's record a show tonight because we wanted to let everybody know that we have some guests coming up and all that stuff. A band that I did want to mention because I do really, we mentioned his name actually earlier when we were talking about the witching season, Slasher Dave, because Acid Witch is a band I dig, and I know they're when they put out their debut, which was like 2008 on Razorback, which was Witch Tanic Hallucinations. That had Lassie from Hooded Menace on vocals on that record. But that's the Putrid did the artwork for it. But that's definitely during the Halloween season. I always like Acid Witch. I always dig them. It's definitely like that kind of vibe. And Slasher Dave, he does a shitload of like when we're back in the '80s, you would get the Halloween soundtracks with the sound effects and the haunted. That he does those because I know like when we do trick or treating in our like when we do the thing at our house where we have trick or treaters come because in our neighborhood we are like the house that everyone comes to because we have so much shit for Halloween that we actually play Dave's effects CDs and records while we for the trick or treaters because it has that old vibe. Because I remember like when I was a kid, you would get the 12-inch records and it was like an hour of haunted house sound effects or that kind of shit. And I always
Yeah,
really dug it. I still dug it at my age now. I love it. Like I said,
because it
I'm a
was
total
creepy
geek.
sounding. It
Yeah,
was
when it
creepy
comes to that
sounding.
stuff, man, like, my wife, I always, actually, Chris, if you remember, our old drummer used to always make fun of me because he's like, what do you want to do when you get really old? I was like, I want to be like one of those, we were talking about horror hosts earlier. I was like, I think that would be awesome. You know,
Yeah, man.
50-year-old man in a cape. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah, man. I just we grew up on a lot of stuff, man, and a lot of these debut albums. You know, uh, shit. For me, I can remember telling Rick that I felt like Mark Wahlberg because I remember I had a picture of fucking. Uh,
Dirk
it was
Diggler.
Rick. It was no, it was Dirk Diggler. It was Rick. I think it was it was a bunch because it was. I
Hmm.
still have the. I told you I found it last week. It was one of those fucking Metal Edge or whatever the fuck magazine, Rip, whatever it was called. I still have it. I had the one I told you I had found the pull out with Slayer lighting the PMRC thing on fire. I mean, you know how old that picture is? But it was a
I
picture
have.
of Rick with an Iron Bird fucking playing. And I used to have him and Chuck and all those dudes on my wall. And I used to come home and play From Beyond um, on guitar, forward and back. You know, and you think about these records that we've talked about, Deicide, you know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy that we were around in a time where we got to hear them when they came out.
Yeah, no. I mean, and a band album I forgot to mention, which I talk about them a decent amount the last couple shows, especially because I love the Nun Slaughter, Hell's Unholy Fire. Because before that, they had like 12 releases, but they were all like demos, EPs,
EPs,
splits.
right?
But their first full length was Hell's Unholy Fire. That's a Pittsburgh band, but Nun Slaughter. I mean, I don't know. I just really dig them. Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah,
I'm actually hoping they come through here. I believe.
they're playing
I
with
wonder if
Possessed,
they're
right?
yeah, I wonder if they're going to Tampa. I didn't see if they're coming to Tampa or not. I usually start checking the Tampa dates when I know I'm going to be in town because it kind of always bums me out when I see the shows and I can't go to them because I'm not there. Like this weekend, Spooky Empire in Orlando, the horror convention. Me and my wife
Yeah,
usually always go hang out at that. So it's kind of like I see the photos online and I'm over here like freezing my ass off, and I'm looking at
yeah.
my
I
Floridian
think
buddies at this convention.
when Possessed came through here, I was in Mexico. I think it was that when they were on tour. I was
The
like,
last time I
motherfucker.
saw them play, I believe, unfortunately, was what was that? 2014 or 2012 when you guys would Destin and Ruin played with them.
14. Yeah, it was
Was
14.
it with
That was done.
Sorcerer? Yeah, it was at
Yep,
the
yep,
Crowbar. Yeah,
yep,
and
yep.
that was definitely that was an awesome show though.
That
I
was with
mean,
that was when Kelly was still. That
yeah,
was
Kelly was still with them. Kelly from what Diabolic,
pessimist.
Pessimist. Yeah, he was playing with them. That was the last time I think I saw them though. So it's been a while. I mean, it's but time flies. But I think there's going to be winter. We have some shows coming here. I saw that they haven't announced the bands yet, but we have like winter festivals here. Like like that's what the last time I saw. We're talking about Unleashed. I saw the Unleashed and Destroyer 666 at the last festival in the winter here. So we actually have that kind of stuff. So, but that's the thing about Florida. It's nice. I look at all you guys have. You have Goat Whore coming through with a Spider, who's a band Spider, who I totally dig. They're a newer band. Because sometimes I'm looking for newer bands. That was a band I really dug with Spider. They're playing at the Orpheum, I believe, or and I think the Conduit, Pete's
Well, we're
venue.
a band that you discovered. That that, and I think you bought their debut record when we went and saw Cannibal play with Behemoth. I
Yeah,
remember.
but Behemoth, yeah, we saw them. Well, I mean, I knew Behemoth, but I never really.
No, the opening band.
Oh, you're talking about which I do like Tribulation.
Yes.
Yeah, I do
Yep.
like Tribulation. I saw Tribulation
Yep.
here a couple years ago.
But I
I do like
remember
Tribulation. Yeah,
we were having many conversations that night about the band.
yeah, yeah. They were. I do like that band, and I saw them
You went and bought their
at.
shit. You walked over there and
Yeah,
bought.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I do. If I mean, I always, obviously I play in band, so of course you want to help support and buy. I did buy some shirts and some, I think, a record or something. I
yeah, you
saw
did.
them at Devilstone. I think the Devilstone Festival here probably like 4 or 5 years ago in Europe. Still good band, but yeah, no, I mean,
Killer record that came out in 2015, man. Tampa band, and the record was called Taste of Death. I don't know. It's
I remember that band. They're a bunch
yeah,
of bozos. Yeah, I kind of because that was our I guess that's our first right. Real a shitload
yeah,
of demos before that and a bunch of other
yeah.
stuff that some of
Splits
it
and
you wish
everything.
would disappear, but like yeah, we had a bunch of splits, and I'm actually really excited because Doomsala. So there's this band I mentioned it before. Me, Jim Ross, Derek Roddy, Mike Pagioni, and actually Ed plays on one of the records now. And I finally got the tracks. Me and Ed both got some of the tracks. Jim sent them over to us. It's almost pretty much done. I'm really excited. I just, we're trying to figure out what to do with it because we just want to figure out who we're going to release it with or how we're going to release it. But I mean, I'm hearing those songs and I think it's killer. Derek's doing a great job with it. It's just, I couldn't be happier with all the guys involved. Jim Ross, we talk about, a guy, if people don't know, check out Band Tour. It's a crazy project. It has like, I can't even tell you how many members in it because he's got like, I mean, everybody plays on that record. He has. I could say there's 75 songs, and I'm probably incorrect. There's
Yeah,
probably
probably
more than
more.
that. Yeah, because I think he's going to break it up into certain things. But some of the names he has playing on that, I mean, he
Everybody,
has everybody. I
everybody.
mean, really, there's such dudes. I know, even myself, I did a few songs with him on there. You did a song with him, Ed.
Yep.
Um, just the names he has, it's just crazy. The roster he's built up with that project. But
It's almost like
yeah,
the Roadrunner United with
yeah, it is.
for,
It's a
the 42 albums worth of 42 different albums worth of material. I mean, he's got so many songs. I mean, I don't know how
And the
that dude
fucking
has time
artwork's
to
crazy
sleep.
too. He had
Yeah,
Mark Cooper do the artwork. It's just crazy. I don't know how Jim does it, man. You know,
good
Jim's a
dude.
beast. He does his thing, man. But no, and yeah, and Halloween's coming up. I don't know. I guess most likely we'll have another show before Halloween. And because I know Thursday we have Dave Austin coming on from Nasty Savage, DNA, Blood
I'm working.
Divisions,
I'm working on somebody too.
and Ed's working on somebody too. So we're gonna like I said, we're gonna. I know November we already have. I just can't say who they are yet, but a couple of them are very cool. And the one we mentioned last week in a way, like is someone that anybody our age knows who he is because he
Yep.
filled our TV screens for
Long time.
many years, and definitely in the horror world.
Uniquely,
Yeah,
uniquely
weekly.
filled
Yeah,
our
uniquely.
screens.
Yeah, just an awesome guy. And the character he played was great. So that's definitely going to happen. I just don't know exactly when, so we don't want to mention that. And yeah, man. Anything else you want to say tonight, Ed? I know we've just been rambling. It's kind of like one of those episodes where we're just like, "Fuck it, let's just do one."
No, I
It's
mean, we when we do this stuff, it's for us. It's kind of just a walk back in time. We just take a trip, man, because some people may not know. They may listen to this and go, "Well, who the fuck?" Like, I can promise you, some people are not going to ever have heard of Agony Column or bands
yeah,
like that. You
and
know what
we
I mean?
get
Or
shit wrong. Like we're off by years, by 1 or 2 years sometimes.
sometimes,
Because
yeah,
goddamn, how do you
sometimes.
remember this shit? Like it's so much
But
crap,
we've like
so much
literally.
info.
I've seen your collection. You saw my CD collection. I mean, at one point I had over 2,000 CDs, and it was like I had up until recently some of the most original stuff bought from Aces, like went left hand, like the original stuff. Um, you know, we bought it, we had it, we lived it. This is not like where we're just going through Google or something and pulling up a bunch of names we found. The bands we're talking about, we owned, we
What do
listened
you
to.
do with that stuff though? Eventually, like when you look at these records and you have, like, I have to admit, I go to my record shelf and I see some of these old records. I realize what they're worth, and I'm like,
Well,
I
like
don't
I
want to
said,
get rid of them because it's a part of like my
I have one
youth.
right now by a band that I didn't realize it's brand new sealed. Um, Probably not supposed to have it, but I found out that there were only 100 copies of this made, and it sells for about $500 or $600. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's
so it's like, do you hold on to it forever, or at some point do you realize, what am I holding on to this for?
I'll put it like this: if I knew my daughters would know the right things to do with it, like if something happened to me, like they would know. I don't want them to like, and now I'm starting to like think, okay, I need to like start leaving tags on the stuff so they know what it is, so when they get older, you know, because like it's pretty
I could just
crazy. Some of this.
imagine. I could just imagine fucking they're like in your neighborhood on Halloween with fucking tables. The kids and mama out there with fucking milk crates, one
Selling
dollar
shit.
each, one
I
dollar
know.
each for records that are worth fucking $200. One
Yeah,
dollar.
it's some of these prices on these original records. It's like when you bought them. That's why I have trouble buying records now because they're so expensive. I'm like, I don't. I used to not. Why are you going to pay? It's like $50 for a record. Back we weren't paying that then. I
Right.
understand it is the market now and stuff, but it's just that's the thing is I don't the stuff we have or I have is like not. I just bought it when it came out and I kept it. That's the one thing I kept was my records and stuff like that. And I just somehow I kept that through all of my moves and through all the crazy shit that goes on in life and stuff. But if I knew my kids would actually like know what to do with some of it, like that would be, But who knows? I mean, I would definitely probably not mind so much. I just don't want to like kick the bucket and have them left behind with a bunch of piles of shit where they don't know where it is, records and all
Exactly.
this
Or your dolls, or all
music
your magazines
memorabilia,
and
or
fucking
like.
hockey shit you have.
Well, I have
Yeah.
like it's funny because I have like I have this all these old monster magazines, like the old famous monsters and stuff like that I have collected through the years, or family had given them to me because I've always been into that kind of stuff, and I've always been into like the black and white horror, the silent films, and like all that, just all the old stuff, and that they could pretty much find. You could get rid of that stuff, but if there's a bunch of records and they're signed by there's a bunch of scribbles on them, they're not going to know who the
What
hell
is
it
this?
is and
What
stuff
is
like that.
this? GG
Yeah, I do have some
Allen?
GJ Allen shit. I have
Yeah.
Rain and Blood by signed by everybody, and I have which is really cool. But that was that's how do I get rid of that? Like that
You
to me, I
don't.
just can't get rid of that record.
You
Yeah, like
don't. You take it's buried with you in the coffin.
I remember when
Yeah.
I
No.
got it
No.
signed. I met the band. I was much younger behind the venue, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is killer!" So they were all like, Tom was awesome. They were all
Yeah.
cool. Jeff was
You don't.
awesome. I mean,
You
yeah, you
take
just
that
don't.
one to the
So
grave.
yeah, so you get, I guess I don't know what you do with all the stuff, but definitely got some cool stuff. And eventually I'll probably like, I could put some pictures of some of it on somewhere, but there's some definitely, I even have long boxes still. I have a sealed
Yep.
Dreaming with the Dead
Ripping
long
corpse.
box. Yeah. Ripping Corpse long box. I still have the long box for Slaughter in the Vatican. It's not in it though, but I mean, I still have the long
It's
boxes for
crazy,
that
right?
because I
That
used
they
to
used to
take the
sell
long
those.
boxes and put them on my wall,
Wall.
like they were
Yep.
like posters because you couldn't go back then. You couldn't really get an X Order poster, or
Nope.
you have
And
for
I
the
think
Deicide long boxes where the first record too came. I think Legion came in long boxes too, if I remember correctly.
I think that's why they made them, so that you could put them. You can
Do
hang them.
something with them, yeah.
Yeah,
So I
because I don't think it
mean,
was just for show. I think it was there for a reason, that you could use it for art, because it
yeah,
had the artwork on it.
yeah, I think that's what it was. I mean, I that's what I
Who
did with it
knows?
at least.
Who
I
knows?
mean, yeah, who knows? But you guys doing anything for Halloween? Ed? You gonna hand out some candy or something?
Don't know.
You
I
don't
don't know.
hand out. You
We well we
blasphemous.
we we used to, but see, my daughter is actually, against my better judgment, is going with her boyfriend's parents, I guess, and their
Wah, wah,
family. They're
wah.
no, they're going. She's driving with them to Texas because he's
Ah,
graduating boot camp. So I got to give him credit. He went to boot camp. He
yeah,
lasted.
yeah.
I thought he would have quit, but he did it, and then he's going from there to wherever he's being stationed. So she wants to go see him, and that's on Halloween. So I have to drive her to Orlando,
Oh
and
shit! Halloween.
yeah, you know how much I fucking gonna hate every bit of that.
Oh,
But
I know.
but she's my princess, so
That's why we find out why they call you Angry Ed. That's when the truth
you
comes out when you're on the road.
fucking son of a bitch.
I got
Well,
hit the other day. It's funny because when I got hit from behind, nothing happened. Vehicle was fine. But of course, the first thing that I'm thinking of Oh shit! How am I going to explain this to my wife?
Yeah.
I was like, but then that's why everything was cool because the guy hit me from
Well,
behind. It was his
you got
fault.
hit
He
from
was,
behind, right? So
yeah.
she'll understand. I
But you
mean,
just don't want to deal with this shit. It doesn't you're just like, oh, I don't want to deal with this process.
oh,
I got to get out of the car.
you're talking about your car. I got you.
Yeah, I'm like,
I thought you,
I got to get out of the car and talk to this guy, and like, I can speak some Lithuanian, but I'm not like really
right,
great
fluent,
at it. So I got
right?
lucky. He was a younger dude because most of the younger people here, because
Speak
they
English,
speak English. So, but
bilingual.
yeah, but at
Watch,
first I was like, yeah, and I knew it was his fault. I
and
knew it
then
was his fault. So
you don't know if the insurance and the way they do things over there is like they do here,
yeah,
and I told you what happened to my wife, and that freaked me the fuck out. I was in Europe when she got smashed, and luckily it wasn't big, but it's 10 o'clock at night, Ybor City, outside of Ybor, and that's a bad part of town, and yeah. So I feel you, man, because you just don't know.
yeah, I just was not looking forward to that whole process of get out of the car and being like, okay, but yeah, everything. My car was fine. His car was fine. He was very happy that his car was fine because, like you said, he drove into me at a light because he wasn't paying attention. But yeah, that's
Probably
life.
texting.
Yeah, you live and
Yeah, I
learn. His
just don't like
girlfriend,
driving to Orlando because that traffic. That
it's
traffic is
miserable.
just it's just you know. I mean, I when I used to drive to Altamont Springs, which is so when you get to Disney, you got another 50 minutes before you got to massacre practice.
Oh
45
shit,
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, it was an hour and
I
40
remember
minute
you
drive.
taking those drives. Yeah,
And I'll tell you, man, like when you're driving home and they're doing construction or something, and from Universal to just past Disney is shut down to 2 lanes, dude, I can't even tell you. Angry Ed is like putting it very kindly because
I
dude, you're
hate it.
just you're creeping for hours, dude. At one time, it took me 4 hours to get home, and I just can't do it, dude. There's very few things in life that I can like that push my buttons. Sitting in traffic, creeping at a couple miles an hour, and then stopping, and then it's and there are too
Sucks.
many people in Florida. I'm going to
That's
tell
what
you right now.
happened. I'll tell you,
Go
we
home.
drove. Yeah, we Orlando always sucks. I mean, so I was speaking about Spooky Empire there this week, and I remember every time I went to Spooky Empire, I was stuck in traffic. Uh, that's obviously, I guess, it's the biggest horror convention in Florida, so I guess it doesn't surprise me. But just Orlando in general is always backed up. If it's always, you're always going to spend at least a little bit of time in traffic there.
Yep.
I
Even at
mean,
night. I mean, you're thinking we were leaving practice at 9 o'clock at night. You're thinking 9 o'clock, ain't nobody on the fucking road. Nope. That's when they're doing construction because they can't do construction during the day, or that would be that would cripple Orlando. Like if you shut down their 4 lane highway to 2 lanes during the day, could you imagine what that would be like? Oh
see
my
the
God.
construction here now, man. The construction's really they're doing all the roads, and the thing that sucks is winter's hitting now. So now it's like it's fucking cold out. We're going to be in the negatives, I believe, on Saturday already. So
And then
like
snow follows.
snow, yeah. So it's like, and a couple years ago it snowed and it didn't stop, man. You were always doing your driveway. I'm coming from Tampa and spending at that time spending half the year over here, and it was like you're falling down on. Man, you can't stand on that. You're just flying on the ground. It's like it sucks. It
The
does suck.
Benny
But
the Benny Hill music plays
music
as
in the
you're trying to walk
background.
up the driveway.
I remember the guy across the street who he's cool. Narius is his name. Uh, he was when I first moved here. Him and his wife would watch out the window. You would just see me like flip up in the air, basically trying to shovel snow, and like they're like, "Oh, this is the fucking Florida guy." And the thing was, in Jersey, it was cold like that and snowy, but it was totally different when you haven't been on that, you haven't dealt with it, and driving sucks on it. It's life. We all have problems, but I'm not a big fan of the winter. You know, but yeah, Ed, I think we should probably get the fuck out of here and
Yeah.
like I said, we're gonna try to come back maybe Sunday or month before Halloween. But we want to thank everyone as usual for listening. Ed, where can you find us at?
Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. You can message us or email us at thetampamorgue@gmail.com. We're on Instagram. Uh, we have a presence on Facebook. I don't know what we do with it, but it's there.
Yeah, it's a little bit, but
Um,
mostly
I,
Instagram is pretty much like what
I'm
we
realizing we
check.
may have to go on X pretty soon because it seems like that's where all the fuckery happens.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so we may
Yeah,
have to get on there,
we had
cause
a
some fuckery. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, we're anywhere where podcasts are.
yeah, we're
Um,
pretty much are everywhere, I think. And if we're not, let me know, and we can. But if you have any questions, you can always send them to us. I did actually will next episode read a few things that we've gotten. But you can always contact us, like Ed said, through either the Instagram or at the Tampa Morgue at gmail.com. And we will post all the shows on YouTube also for people who don't have Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever else the tools are. But,
yeah,
we want to
we will
thank
not.
everyone for listening.
We will not
Yeah.
have a TikTok. We will
We will
not
not
have a
have a
TikTok.
TikTok. Yeah, we're not going to
Never.
TikTok route. We're not doing that. So we thank everyone for listening. As always, Ed, you got anything to say on the way out?
Nope. Just thank you, everybody. I mean, this is we just enjoy doing this shit. It's fun, and it keeps my wife and your wife happy not hearing us walk around our houses talking shit.
Yeah, exactly. My wife's tired of talking about records, so she sends me here to do it. So but we appreciate everyone that's listening and that does listen. We thank you, and we shall see you definitely on Thursday with Dave Austin from obviously Nasty Savage, DNA. Um, just totally looking forward to that. So until then, if we don't see you before, have a good week, and thanks for listening, Ed. Peace, man.
See ya.
And then thanks for listening to the Tampa Morgue.